Hello, and welcome to Easy Piecy Quilts. My name is Julia Tiedemann, and today we're going to be talking about the Woodland Camping Adventure quilt. My sister-in-law is having a baby in a few months, and she sent me her ideas for a nursery theme. She is doing a woodland camping nursery theme, and so I designed this quilt hopefully to go perfectly with her nursery. So we have the baby quilt or the crib quilt behind me. This is actually going to her. And we have also pillows that the pattern includes. So you can make tree pillows, or you can make a tent pillow, or you can make a star pillow if you'd like. But this project is very fun. It's great for that camper or that person that is a really outdoorsy, and it would be a wonderful quilt for a cabin or a camper would be fun. But this quilt comes in crib size, it comes in twin size and queen size. And so it's very versatile in that way. So let's get started on making the Woodland Camping Adventure quilt. So today we're going to be working on the Woodland Camping Adventure quilt pattern. It's pattern number 133, and there are several different layouts for this pattern. The crib or baby quilt is this layout, and then you have a twin or throw size pattern, or you can even do a queen size. So this would be really cool for like twin beds in a cabin or a little boy's room, or even a queen size quilt in that kind of setting. And then a really popular thing right now is woodland baby themes. So hopefully, as we go through how to make each component of the quilt, you can take those components and the blocks and then build each one of these quilts without much problem. So let's get started. Here we have all the pieces for the tent block. The tent block is mostly made of templates. So all of these are included in the pattern. I don't include templates for squares and rectangles. Those are the dimensions to cut those out are in the pattern, but all these other irregular pieces, triangles, strips, that kind of thing are in the pattern. And I wanted to show you how I cut out these pieces. So I think the easiest thing to do is to have your pins, the flat pins, available. And what I do is I cut out my paper pieces. I take the piece of fabric, obviously, that I want to cut and pin the template to that. And the reason that the flat pins work so much better is because along the longer edges of this, I think it's just easier to overlay one of your quilting rulers and cut it that way. So this side, I just cut doing that. And then on the ends here, there's little pieces to kind of cut, and that's just really easy to do. Make sure that your a rotary cutter is very sharp to do these. You're not going to want to mess with a dull blade. That's just going to make things worse. So nice sharp rotary blade when you start. And that just makes it really easy to get all those edges really straight. The other thing to remember with this is that all these edges that you're cutting are bias. In other words, so this edge is not, because it's with your fabric, but these edges are all very stretchy because they are not cut on grain. So when you put together two edges that are cut on the bias, they tend to stretch and distort, things like that. You can do, go ahead and start your fabric before you start. That will help with that. The other thing that is sometimes helpful is pinning, because when you pin, it kind of helps hold those edges together. And if they're together, there's just a little bit more stability. But here is the rest of those pieces. And the pattern really goes into every single step of assembly of these pieces. So the first assembly step with these is that you're going to put these two pieces together and sew them. So you're just going to line up the edges, and remember, these are biased, so don't do too much pulling on there. And you can, like I said, go ahead and pin those just to kind of help keep everything nice and lined up in the machine. And then same with this, we're gonna put these two edges together and pin that. These two pieces are going to be sewn together in the first step. These two pieces are going to be sewn together in the first step. So we're gonna make all these seams, and then once I go ahead and sew those, I'm gonna press them open, and we'll be back to see what step comes next. We have these pieces assembled, so we're gonna go ahead and proceed with putting this piece here to the body of the tent. We'll attach these two pieces together here along this side, and we will assemble these two pieces along this edge, and we'll be back. So we're almost done with the tent. You can see how quickly this block comes together because of the large piecing. But one thing with this last step, so the last part of assembly for this block is to put these two pieces together. And the only seam that you need to line up in this entire block is this seam right here. It's the outside of the tent aligning right here. If you can see that right here, that seam right there. Well, there is a seam here, right here, that goes directly on top of the point of the tent opening there too. So I found when putting this together that if I lined up those two seams there, because they're straight seams and they're way easier to align than the other, that it really came pretty close right here. But if you want to be perfect and absolutely sure, you can line those two seams up. And when I have a seam that's a little bit tricky, what I'll do is I will pin it, and then I will sew over that one little section and check it, open it up and check it and see, okay, how did I do? Do I need to move it a little bit or what? Because then I'm only taking out 2 or 3 stitches instead of taking out a whole line of seam over and over and over again. So that's just what I do when I'm working on kind of a tricky seam, because this is, I mean, there's an obvious color contrast there, and you're going to see that. But that's really the only seam in this entire thing that isn't, it has to be aligned. So we're going to put these two pieces together. Then we're going to sew this piece, once it's one piece, to the back part of the tent. And then the remaining pieces are one strip of background fabric along the bottom and one strip of background fabric along the top. and then we'll have this block complete. Here is our completed tent. And just as a reminder again, when you're pressing seams, go straight down. Don't try and warp the fabric or move the fabric around when you're pressing. Just be very cognizant to not stretch seams, because that will cause a problem. But this is our tent, and that is the first block that we're going to be doing. Now, there is one of the templates, if you buy the PDF version of the pattern, will come in 2 pieces. And that is because it's just too big of a piece to fit on a regular size piece of paper. And I didn't want everyone to have to go buy legal paper or have a printer that could print bigger pieces. And so this piece is the same. This is from the pattern you'll get in the paper copy version if it's mailed to you. This is the PDF version. And so in order to assemble this template, what you do is it will give you the size of 12.5 inches along this line. So the easiest way to do it, since you won't have this other one, is to take both your pieces and overlap them until they meet at 12.5 inches and all the sides align. You can see that it's straight along here. This is 12.5 inches. Put your piece of tape on there and assemble your template that way, okay? And then you can see it's exactly the same size as the one that you get in the paper version at that point. So that is just one little thing that, it can be a little tricky. Well, how do I line this up? But that really is the easiest way to do it. That way you know that your size is correct. This is the only other part of the quilt where there are templates used for piecing. So this this tree, the little tree with the side triangles, are templates that are included. So in order to piece this portion together, you are going to go ahead and sew this seam here, press this open, and then add this seam here and press open. So that's how you're going to assemble that part. And again, be careful with your bias seams there. You're not stretching or the fabric. And then let's go ahead and do that. We'll sew the tree, the 2 triangles to the top of the tree. And then we're going to attach these 2 background pieces to the tree trunk, and we will come back and reassess. Now let's place these 2 pieces on the side. We'll go ahead and sew those onto the little tree. And then let's put the tree trunk on this bottom background piece, and we'll go ahead and sew there. Now we are just down to putting the background piece to the top of the tree and putting the little tree trunk on the tree and sewing those seams, and we should have that little part of our block completed. There is our little tree complete. Here is the next tree that we're going to do, and there are strips of the green tree fabric, and we're going to put a piece of background fabric with the right sides together. Didn't do that. On each of the ends and up here as well. And the only row on this tree that we're going to have to do a little bit differently is the top row. But all the other rows you can chain piece through your machine. And what we're going to do is just sew corner to corner on the squares all along the branches. So with a pin or whatever kind of utensil you want to use, we are just going to sew a seam from corner to corner in the same direction all the way up on one side. And then we're going to sew from corner to corner in the opposite direction on the other side. And that is going to make our branches for our tree. And then the first piece of the top row, we are going to sew, and then we're going to sew right on the line. We're going to trim it to 1/4 of an inch. We're going to press it open, and then we're going to do the other side. And that's going to give us that 1/4 of an inch seam allowance at the top. The other ones you can just chain piece without trimming first, but this top one you'll have to trim and press, because otherwise if you just sew this side and then sew this side, you're not going to be able to open that up. So I will go ahead and sew all these ends, and we will see what we do next. So we have gone ahead and sewn corner to corner and trimmed our pieces back here, and gone ahead and press those out. So we have all of our little tree branches, and we have some background pieces that we're going to attach to either or each row, here, here, and here. The last row doesn't have any side pieces of background fabric. And then our last row is just attaching 2 background pieces to our tree trunk. And once we get all of those pieces attached in rows, then we're going to assemble the block row by row, and we will have our completed tree. I want to talk just a second about the tree blocks. You can see that the tree blocks look very similar, but this block is a mirror image of this block. The little tree is on the right here, and the little tree is on the left here. So this block is this, and this block is this. So when you go to put your trees together, it is going to be different this way or this way. And the bottom portion is also going to be different, as well as this outside background piece. So just be careful when you're constructing your blocks, which block of the tree is going in which position, and the orientation of completing that block will be different, and they're not interchangeable. We are going to do our star block next, and I'm just going to show you how to make 1 star, because once you've made 1 star, all it is just making more stars and then putting them together with background piecing. So that makes it easy. So the star is essentially made from a flying geese unit. And so the way we're going to make our flying geese is we're going to cut a large background square for the star, and then a smaller square for the star piecing. And we are going to take our larger square, and we are going to cut it from corner to corner, one direction. We're going to pick up our ruler, and we're going to cut it from corner to corner the other direction. And again, we are making bias edges, so make sure that you are careful with these. Whoopsie, I guess I need to change my blade. With your these edges right here, these edges are stretchy. So the bigger one, I'll fix that. I'll get that undone. So with the bigger square, we cut it in 4. With the smaller square, we're going to cut it corner to corner. And this is the exact same process we're going to do for our flying geese for the border as well. So you've got a lot of flying geese to make for your borders, and we're going to use the same process. And then you have small stars on the outer corners of your quilt. These are obviously smaller than these, but the assembly process is exactly the same. The pieces are just a little bit smaller. So here is the original triangle, and we are going to piece this to this. Whoa, my brain's not working here. Here we go. Okay, this goes here, and this goes here. There we go. So that is our flying, do you say flying goose? Flying geese. Unit. That kind of kills me to say that. But anyway, so this is going to just line up like this. So you're going to line your two sides of your triangle up, even here, and you're going to sew 1/4 of an inch this direction. You're going to have to open it and press it, and then go ahead and do your other side, which is the same exact process. You're going to line up all your edges, and you're going to sew 1/4 of an inch this way, and then you're going to press it open. And I purposely made these pieces a little bit bigger. We are going to trim these because especially when you get to the border, your flying geese have to be very precise, because if you get off even just a little bit along this border, it's, a centimeter, and before you know it, your border is way too long or way too short. So we want to start out with the building blocks as exact as possible. So let me go make one of these flying geese units, and I'm going to go ahead and make one for our border too, because it's the exact same process. And we'll come back and I will show you how to trim these, and then we'll go ahead and make our star. So I know that there are lots of different ways to make flying geese, but I like this way because it's very low waste, and you can chain piece these so quickly, just run them through the machine. And so I like that. I know there's 4 at a time flying geese, that kind of thing. But anyway, this is the way we're making it for this quilt. So I came across this ruler. It's the block lock, and it is for flying geese, and it is so easy. I got the 2" by 4" one for which will go ahead and cut all of your border pieces for every size of the quilt. And it also works for the larger star points, which we've trimmed here with it. And the smaller one, isn't this one cute? So little. This one works for the smaller star flying geese unit. So I will link those below. I think they're super helpful. And it just makes it really, really easy to get a nice, accurate cut. So what it does is it locks into this channel right here where your seam is. And I don't know if you can see this very well, but there's a line right here that lines up with the fabric along your unit, flying geese unit. So all you have to do is line that up. It kind of locks into place, and then you just trim all the way around, and you know that you're going to get a perfect cut with perfect sides there. So once you get done, that little guy wanted to hang on, then everything is trimmed, and you can see how much waste there is on these, not really any at all. And then there's a little dog ear on the back here with this that I just trim off. And then that is our flying geese unit, and that makes it very, very accurate for our border. And here is the star. So we went ahead and trimmed everything we need for that. And we're going to take 2 of our flying geese units and put them on the sides, and then 1 on the top and 1 on the bottom. And then we have 2 background squares that go on either side up here. and 2 that go down here. And I just assemble these in horizontal rows. So what I'll do is I'll put these 2 pieces on this flying geese unit, and I will put these 2 flying geese units on either side of the middle square, and these 2 background pieces on either side here. Now I am going to nest my seams. Whenever I can do that, I do. So it makes it so much easier to align your seams and get your block nice in the end. So what we'll do is I will probably press these seams going toward the middle block because the seams are going to want to lay that way anyway. And then I'll go ahead and press these seams out towards these blocks, and this the same here. So that when we come back and we've assembled our whole star, those little points right here will all be nice and aligned because we have nested those seams. And I'll show you the back of this block when I get it put together. Here is our pretty star, and we connected all the pieces like we talked about previously. You can see that these seams are pressed out, these seams are pressed in, these seams are pressed out, and then once we put them together, we can nest those seams from row to row, and that makes everything line up very nicely. Here we have the pillow. The pattern will go into how to make each one of the blocks a pillow if you would desire to do that. You can make a tent pillow, you can make a tree pillow, you can make a star pillow. They're all interchangeable, and the pattern will tell you how much border fabric to put around the block to make a 22-inch pillow. I like to overstuff my pillows a little bit because I feel like over time they get flatter. So I'm going to use a 24 by 24 inch pillow form for this pillow. And I went and got some canvas or a little bit thicker cotton fabric for the backing on this pillow. I'm going to do an envelope closure on the back of the pillow so I can slide the pillow form in and out. And if I want to store this, it's easy to take the pillow form out, store it flat, rather than storing a bunch of pillows. And it just makes it easier. So I have gone ahead and rolled one edge of the background or backing, and what I did was I just turned it over about 3/4 of an inch or an inch, whatever you desire, and then pressed that and then rolled it again. So we do not have a raw edge here, we have a finished edge. And then I just straight stitched along that. So this is the right side of this fabric. This is the right side, obviously, of the front of the pillow. So you're going to put the top part of the envelope back on first with the right side of that against the right side of your front of your pillow. And that's going to create the envelope back where the top of the pillow is smoother and you're not seeing down into the envelope when you have your pillow upright. And then the other part of the envelope back, which these measurements are all in the pattern. Oop, I have it upside down. We don't want to do that. We want to put the finished edge on after that with the right side of this bottom finished edge against the other pieces that we just completed, put together. And I am not usually a big person that pins a lot of things, but with this project, I think pinning is important. I just pin around the outside of the, all the way around the outside of the pillow, just so it's not shifting when I'm sewing it. I usually use 1/4 of an inch to sew this because it's so ingrained in my head, 1/4 of an inch, because I'm a quilter. But whatever you feel comfortable with is fine. There is quite a bit of extra around the outside of the pillow. So if you want to do a little bit bigger seam allowance, that's totally fine. And I also go over these areas where the back envelope is folded. I will forward stitch and back stitch over these areas several times just to make sure that they're nice and secure, because when you're putting in the pillow form, taking it out, these areas will have more stress, and you want to make sure that they're nice and secure. So we are going to sew a seam all the way around the entire outside of the pillow, because we have our opening. We don't have to worry about leaving an opening there. And once I do that, I will come back and show you how to trim the corners, and we'll flip it. Here is our pillow sewn all the way around the outside. We've got our back on, and you'll notice that I just used old scrap fabric on the back. No one is ever going to see the back quilting of this pillow. So the corner seam goes right there. I'm going to cut this corner off with my rotary blade, just right up to, but not through the stitching on the corners, because that's going to help when we turn this to have the corner a little bit crisper and not pulled in. You have to be very careful not to go through that stitching. And then we're going to flip the pillow through the hole in the envelope back. And there's all sorts of tools, and I'm sure you have them too, to go ahead and push those corners of your pillow out a little bit more. All right, so we've got that done. And you can see this is the right side up of the pillow, and we have the envelope back where we pieced it together on the back so that that comes down on the top side, so that when it's being displayed, you don't see that gap into the pillow back. And we will go ahead and put our pillow form in. And you can see, because we overlapped that so much, you do not see the back of the pillow. It lays very nicely. And I like that look a lot better than having it be very close in the back and having that gaping. It just looks so much more finished. And here is the front of our pillow. Now, the other thing you could do, which I probably will take this pillow form out and do, is go ahead and press this. Just make sure that you have a nice edge where it's not rolled over one way or the other, and just press it with a hot iron so that it won't look like that when it's being displayed. It'll look a little bit better if that is pressed. So we'll go ahead and do that. But beyond that, I think this pillow is pretty stinking cute, and it goes right along with your quilt. Thank you so much for joining me in making this Woodland Camping Adventure quilt. I would love to see your projects. Tag me on social media, or you can email me at easypiecyquilts@gmail.com, and I'd love to see what you're doing. We will have kits available for this quilt. This is the new Riley Blake Grasscloths collection. It's one of their new basic collections. And I think it's really, I love the texture of it, the fact that the background fabric has that texture to it too. So we will have those available for you if you're interested at easypiecyquilts.com.